Days before the inauguration of Nigeria's new president, Muhammadu Buhari, commercial activity ground to a halt in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Long queues at filling stations like this one across the street from Nigeria's National Petroleum Corporation headquarters persisted well after an agreement had been brokered between the outgoing government of Goodluck Jonathan and the country's petroleum marketers. Added to this was a nearly total electricity blackout following a systems collapse at the Shiroro hydroelectric power plant. That plant is supposed to provide up to 10% of public electricity power in Nigeria. Economist Pat Utomi runs the Lagos Business School. He says this is just the tip of the iceberg of the economic problems confronting the Buhari administration as it takes control of Africa's largest economy.
Well, the new administration will come in at a time when there's a significant drop in revenues. This is a drop that is compounded by a number of factors. First, the drop in revenues comes primarily from the collapse of crude oil prices in global markets in 2014, and we've had a very soft market, and prices have traveled south and way further south than the planners of the budget projected and all of that. The government is going to come in on the heels of huge backlogs in salaries from several state governments, some as much as 9 months arrears of salaries. Government is going to come in the wake of significant levels of leakages in the system. In the oil and gas sector, huge, monumental leakages. The petroleum subsidy matter has become really oppressive of choice in economic decision-making.
Abuja University economist Sarah Anyau believes Nigeria's biggest problem is a lack of discipline.
We expect fiscal discipline, prudent financial management, procurement, everything should follow due process. When all these things are done, there should be due process for everything. You don't jump the gun because I know Mr. A, Mr. B. Everything should be done according to the due process and procedures. All this tribalism, fatherism, statism, all this should die down. This is a new regime.
Bismarck Rwani is one of Nigeria's foremost economists. He agrees discipline is an issue, but more has to be done.
The command discipline approach to allocating resources has proven to be inefficient. The Soviet Union, the Warsaw Pact, they had all of the army, but they couldn't keep it. The price system seems to have a much more efficient way of allocating resources, and therefore the weak and the underprivileged will now come under the safety net. You can't have an open system where only the rich and the strong survive. You must have a safety net. So General Buhari is an economic patriot, but also a welfarist. But it's also a realist. So what is he going to do? It's going to, I think, adopt market-driven policies as long as it's consistent with what he considers to be national interest.
Rwani says Buhari has to get rid of the fuel subsidy.
Fuel subsidy is the 100-pound gorilla in the room. Everybody thinks about it, but nobody wants to talk about it. The reality is that fuel subsidies are not subsidies. They are reverse taxes. They distort the allocation of resources, and it creates rent for a few people who actually have the government in their pockets. The opportunity now is that because this government is not in anybody's pocket, you have to get out of it. If you don't get out of it fast enough, it becomes a malignant tumor, which is going to bring down any administration. It is a discalculated price. And what happens is that we're spending 25% of our budget subsidizing consumption, which doesn't even get to the people. Apart from Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja, and a few places, everybody pays significantly higher than the pump price. And if you look at the template, only 65% of the cost of that product is on the template. The other 35% is for all sorts of things.
But Rwanda is still very bullish on the Nigerian economy.
Because it's a market of 150, 170 million people. If the market is there, all you have to do is to provide supply, effective supply. And that will give you the inducement to reinvest. And if all of this investment takes place at the same time, I want you to imagine what happens to GDP.
The Lagos Business School's Utomi has this advice for Buhari.
First, you've got to provide hope. We've got to create quickly a lot of jobs using infrastructure needs in public-private partnerships to get people excited. Then you've got to get a generation to see that in its balls, in its ideas, are locked up a great future. I tell you, when I was leaving the United States after graduate studies in 1982 to come home, the American economy had just gone around an interesting curve. A wonderful man called Jimmy Carter was president of the United States. Things were quite bad for the economy. Inflation reached 29%. Japanese companies were overtaking major US companies. And Americans seemed lost. And President Reagan came along, having defeated the incumbent president. The parallels are remarkable. Oldest man ever to be elected president of the United States. And he arrives, creates a competitiveness commission, and excites the youth of America. As I was leaving, finishing my PhD in 1982, most of the young people on campus were working on their CVs to attend interviews that were not likely to give them jobs because the economy was not growing. 10 years later, I returned on sabbatical. And in April, March, the seniors were not working on their CVs. They were working on their business plans and hoping to become billionaires before their 26th birthday. The young people of America had created a new industry. The dot-com revolution saved America. I believe that the right leadership can inspire the same thing in the youth of Nigeria, and that in their creativity and the energy that they have, they can provide Nigeria the dream of its founding fathers that seems to have been lost.
So the Buhari administration has its work cut out for it, and the future of Africa's largest economy will depend on the decisions the administration makes going forward. Ebong Udama, Go Tell Africa.